And we're live. And it's another Cloudburst. I'm here with my dad David and my brother Paul. Glad to have him involved today. And my name is Judah. Today, guys, I actually was thinking, I was recording my trip over here, and I was remembering a time when I did that in Chicago, and that was one of my favorite snow days. Looking back, I was trying to think about what to say. Sometimes we get snow days and, we wax philosophical in the beauty of the snow. But I want to talk, you guys thought about the idea of talking about stories that come up when we think about snow and snow days.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you mentioned that, because this is snowy here in North Carolina. We're in North Carolina, and it's snowy in like New Orleans.
Snow everywhere
and Miami, down there,
southern coast,
and it feels momentous. It feels like it's something is special. And you think there are some stories in the scripture, about was it Benaiah
killed a lion?
You can't, that's a
Benaiah killed a lion in a pit.
Snowy day. And you think it must have been like a story that his grandkids, heard all the time. Hey, come here, let me tell you the story about when I killed that lion. It was a snowy day,
Which is, a snow day is really, it brings gladness. It stops everything. Stops everything. We say, oh, it's snowing. It's snowing. It's not, very rarely does anyone say that with disappointment? Oh gosh, it snowed today. To me, I guess I said that.
If you're air traffic controller or something.
Yeah, but generally, it snowed.
It's a happy thing.
Because everything stops. People don't go to work.
In the South,
go to school.
It's a Sabbath.
It's a
Sabbath of sorts.
Yeah, it is.
But everywhere where it snows, there is always, it seems like, a sense of that snow globe feeling. The slow moving, the snow falling down slowly.
Peace.
There is a peaceful thing about it.
Like you said, it's like a Sabbath. It's take some time out. Because I always remember as a kid, no school. In the South, snows, no school. Virginia, we up in Manassas, it was snow, and out come the sleds, and we go sledding all day until it got so cold, your feet were cold.
Well, they get wet, the snow melts. And even in the north, one of the things I love about the north is that it forces like a whole season of reflection and repose. I remember I moved up to the Yukon Territory, and I bought a little fixer-upper, and we had to get to work on it. And I would go around. Of course, the sun doesn't even come up till 10:30. And I'd need to borrow a tool or something. I'd go visit some friend. Hey, I need to borrow a table saw or something. Slow down, man. It's 40 below outside. Let's have a cup of coffee. They were always freaked out that I was trying to get stuff done. Take it easy. It's winter time. Have a cup of coffee. Let's talk a little bit.
There's a cultural shift.
There's a shift. Up in the far north, it's,
Yeah, because I would think that, and I'm always getting accused of that. You used to live in Chicago. You should know. You shouldn't be complaining about the cold.
Complaining about the cold is the pastime. That's what you do in the north.
Interesting.
Gives people something to talk about.
It's true. It's not like people on Earth are like, this is what we do. This is how we live.
Well, it's the same. Yeah, that's a funny thing that people that formula. People like, you were in the army. Why do you complain about cold, short showers? Whatever. No, that complaining about these things. That's what we did. Hardships, yeah.
But Dad, you brought us up to Canada when we were young, and you
moved up there in the fall. What was that first winter like?
Well, it always snows about mid-November, and it keeps snowing all through the.
Was it shocking to you to?
No, it wasn't shocking. I wasn't. It wasn't pleasant. What was odd about us? That we moved from New Mexico, where the sun always shines, up to Quebec. When we got to Quebec, it snowed or rained constantly, or it was gray. And I remember that the sun didn't shine until April. We got there in like November. And it was just snowy or raining, early when we got there, and then later it's always gray. But the snow, it becomes a way of life, of course. The snow in the north, it's not like here in the south. I always think of my youth. Snow was a break. Snow was it was a fun day. It's like it has been here today and yesterday. People going around looking for a place to sled, building snowmen, throwing snowballs. But in the north, it was a way of life. So snow day was like digging your car out of the snowdrift, digging a way out, because the snowplow comes down the street if you live in town and plows up a big old wall of ice and snow across your driveway. You got to dig that out. So snow was an impediment to, you had to be shoveling it, sweeping it, taking care of it all the time.
Which I think is a feature, not a bug. I think it's nice to have a challenge. I appreciate a challenging environment.
Yeah.
The resistance. It gives you something. It gives you, I think any guy in particular likes to have something, an accomplishment. And just digging out your car and keeping the house warm every day. Yeah. Doing something,
It felt good coming back inside, stomping off the snow. And eventually you learn, we learned that snow was it just provided a new way of life. When we lived out in the woods, it made the snowmobile accessible and usable. And so you're on top of the snow riding around. And then we learned out about cross-country skiing. We used that in places with cross-country skis. It was just a different way of life.
There's some places up north where snow in the winter makes travel a lot easier. Like Muskeg, where it's swampy or thick brush. Then when it snows, you can get all over those places you can get to that you can't get to in the summer.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing, is that how the different seasons can change your different patterns. So when we came from Chicago to here, we had to make a mental shift that the summer the patterns of the summer here were more like our patterns in winter back then, because we stayed. Yeah,
it's so hot outside.
It's so hot out here in the summer. Yeah. And we get more done outside and stuff in the winter. In the summer, people say, "You coming over?" No, I'm staying inside in the air conditioning. It's a different. But the aspect of survival is different. There is something more visceral, more exciting about a cold survival than a hot survival.
Yeah, particularly in the technological age. The only way to survive the heat is through air conditioning. You're not out there at gauges checking your freon levels every day.
So that is something that you particularly love, and we discovered through Dad at an early age. I think we discovered is the aspect of getting into these rhythms of chopping wood and loading a fire, keeping a fire going, surviving. Beating the winter, beating the cold.
You're talking about now living
war,
in the cold.
Yeah.
Paul has lived a lot in the cold, likes to live in the cold. The rest of us shake our head and think, get out of here. Get down to the tropics.
Well,
yeah, even where I'm at, though, one of my complaints about the Mountain West, it gets cold and it gets snowy, and then it gets warm and the snow goes away. It's a roller coaster. And then it snows again. I do kind of miss the Northeast or the far north. Snow falls in November.
And constant.
And you don't see the ground again until it melts, and that excitement. Ooh, grass springing up,
the thaw.
The thaw, which is a mix of sweetness, the grass coming up and everything, and some more objectionable things. For instance, the roads, it gets slushy and muddy, and there's water everywhere. And if anybody has a dog, you have 6 months of dog evidence thaws out.
Oh yeah.
And people forget about
Well,
that.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dog evidence.
Yeah.
All the garbage. That was always nice about snow. Now we're talking about snow. One thing I loved about snow in the north was they just covers up all your trash, garbage, and dog piles and everything. You don't have to worry about it until April, and then you begin to discover where you left the old rake or whatever. All shows up in the backyard.
I don't know if you remember this, but one of my things that I loved in the spring up in Quebec was I would go along like parking lots and the roads nearby and find change.
Yeah,
When it melted, because all 6 months of people dropping a quarter and a penny a dime, and so you'd find change. I'd make $1.27 or something.
In Leadsuit.
Yeah, walking around and looking.
Yeah, I actually grew up thinking that was the way. I thought that was what happened, is that somehow, you could always find change. It's kind of a rude awakening moving into the United States. You couldn't find change all the time on the ground. I don't know what it was about.
I think it was the snow.
The snow. Yeah.
This is
Anyway.
These are our rules for life. We're learning.
I think it's interesting, and I do think
Change.
there's some evidence that the winter has an effect on cultures. I mean, you think of Scandinavian cultures are very responsible. If you want the lights to stay on, get a bunch of Norwegians or Swedes. I pointed out in the far north, there's always, in every little town, there's some character whose nickname is Swede. There's always a Swede. And it's always like the most the guy who can fix your engine or fix your stove.
Hardworking people.
Industrious, capable guys.
Interesting.
And, in places where the opposite is true, if you're living off of, for instance, fresh fruit or whatever, you need to consume immediately. So when you're in a culture that's, where it's warm or whatever, Jamaica or whatever, or,
Cuba.
Sub-Saharan Africa, whatever, you have a culture where you have to consume immediately. Whereas in the far north, you have a culture you have to prepare.
Preserve and
You have
prepare.
to preserve food, stock up wood or whatever. And so that's where you have maybe not as fun of people, it's a more austere culture, but one that's definitely more industrious and more planning, foresight, and
Rhythm. There's more rhythms too. Well,
independent.
like you're saying, patient rhythms, like long-term,
forward-looking.
Yeah. What about you, Dad? Things that you noticed, like what was sort of a culture shock when you moved out to the far north?
Culture shock. Culture shock. Well, of course, providing for your heat, and it's hard. For some reason, everybody depended on wood, one way or the other. Even in town, we had a stove down in the basement.
That's right.
And we kept that going, and it kept the general heat in the house. So we were always concerned about wood, and it helped me understand about order. At first I just piled up the wood in the back, and then it snowed on it, and then it would be just a big pile of snow, and I had to dig in and pull out a piece of wood at a time. I learned that, like everybody else, was, stack it up, put a cover on it. That's that part of preparing for snow, for the winter, preparing everything.
I feel like we played a lot more chess up there, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Just because you have
Long, quiet. We didn't have much. We didn't have much TV. Didn't have much. I didn't have a computer then. So
I think that has changed. Northern climates more so. I talked to this guy. I met this guy in Palmer, Alaska. I just met him at a cafe somewhere, and his job was running internet cables out to remote villages in Alaska. And he said, it's a job and somebody's going to do it, but he felt bad because he would show up in these little towns and the kids are outside playing and everybody's out chopping wood and visiting each other and sitting at the grocery store drinking coffee, and he'd come back a year and a half later or whatever after having brought the internet, and it was dead. People are inside, scrolling online. I think that's probably changed because we get bored. And it takes a little gumption to put your snow clothes on, your suit, your boots, and everything. Well, let's go visit, the neighbors and go see if they want to go sledding or something.
Well, I mean, that now getting back to snow days, that's what happens in the South. You have a kind of a quiet, and suddenly it snows. You put on your boots, you put on your coat, you go out, you see people, you go looking for another place to sled, and you go visit so and so, and your mother, like yesterday when it snowed, oh, she made a big pot of soup and want to have people come over. I thought you'd think snow would make you want just to cocoon inside, but it really is a
social element.
Yeah, it's something new, something that, so people make snowmen people feel industrious. There's Mr. Wagner. There's a picture that was sent to us. Jeannie Wagner sent us a picture of a snowman they built in 1989. It had a big snow here. Snow here is rare in North Carolina on the coast. So they had a big snowman, and there's Mr. Wagner and Jeannie and her husband and the little boy. The snowman was like 7 foot tall.
Big snow.
They're huge. I mean, they decided if we're going to make a snowman, we're going to make a snowman. It was huge. And so they got that feeling of industry outside doing something,
You know who captures the whole winter life really well? Garrison Keillor. If you were reading or listening to Lake Wobegon days or
in the north,
he's always talking about the snow. Great ending of that book, Lake Wobegon days. This guy goes out. He's upset with his family. It's a really sweet ending. He's upset with his family. He's mad. He goes out to buy some cigarettes or something and gets lost and goes and he's grumpy and then he's on his way home and realizes he didn't even left the cigarettes or whatever on the thing.
He had to go back.
He wrecks his car.
Oh, jeez.
Into the bank, drifts off the road into the bank, and he barely gets out. He's waddling through the snow, and there's this house. And he realizes, I love my family.
Oh, yeah.
He's happy to see. He's warm. It really makes the home stand out. You see the glowing windows, and the fire's going, and people are inside. I think it can intensify and make you love your home and your family.
Yeah.
In a way that's special.
Yeah, I think you do look at snow and ice as a hand of God. There's something happening here. I remember about cold, something really interesting. We were living outside of Manassas, Virginia, in a farmhouse that someone had ceded to us for 2 or 3 years. They were in Europe, and that's what my dad said. So we rented this farmhouse. And it got real cold one morning when it snowed, real cold. And on the window panes, I remember seeing, I had to be about 8, which is kind of late for me to see this, but on the window panes, you had the ice formed
Geometric
patterns of leaves, like leaves, And I was looking at it, and they were beautiful. Geometric patterns of leaves. And so, and my mom says, that's Jack Frost. Well, it was the hand of God. It's that God would create with ice these beautiful patterns on it. I could still see it on the window pane. I thought, how beautiful. Not instead of just having frost like you have on your car window, your windshield. Boy,
Crystallization.
Oh, yeah. And they have, they really are like fronds and they branch out and so beautiful.
I mean, the snowflake, which unfortunately has gotten a bad name, but it's such a beautiful thing. And they always tell you, which is hard to believe, that every snowflake is unique. 70 trillion of them.
I don't know whether you guys saw this. Different kinds of snow. In the north, we lived out in the woods there, and I remember one day I had walked to work across the river to go to the Indian village, and it was snowing, but it's snowing weirdly, and I looked down the side. The flakes were actually stacked,
In little columns.
A little column. So they were all So that instead of having just one flake, it was a column of flakes.
Interesting.
The same flake kind of, had glommed on each other. I don't know if you saw that, but it's like a little tube,
Interesting.
and not real long, but really, oh, look at that. There was always something like that happening up there. I was telling people about ice crystals, and when it gets so cold, 20, 30 degrees below zero, the dew, like what would be dew, comes in the air and just freezes. And so you see just when the sun comes out, you just see glittering in the air. It's all kinds of things are happening with snow and ice, that you hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
Snow drifts.
It's interesting that, I don't know, I think it again, I guess it just kind of hyper localizes, your interest in just what's right around you. I remember once when it snowed in Beaufort County, not far from here. I drove into Little Washington, saw things I'd never seen. The one, I was driving slower. You drive slower, and suddenly, I didn't know there was a farmhouse there. I didn't know that tree, it just kind of sort of makes everything a little dreamier, and you notice all the little things that could have passed over.
Well, there's an interesting juxtaposition of deadliness and beauty in snow and ice, in cold, it's something that I think God can use. Like you were saying, both of you were talking about the beauty, but also coziness of home. Makes the warm embrace of mom a little bit warmer. Makes the center, the hearth of a home more inviting and more localized. Like you said, it really pushes humans together.
Yeah. And especially either if you've been playing outside for a long time, or if you've been. I remember we had to pull in. We used to have to. We couldn't get the truck all the way to the house. We had to park at the river and then drag our boxes of stuff that we'd shopped, in town, and I put them on. I remember on the toboggan one night, pulling them. That must have been about 0 degrees, and they fell over. I had to put them back in I remember how cold I was, but I remember getting to the house thinking, "Oh, let me in," and it was so warm. Mom was there. I had something hot to drink. It's so good.
Yeah, I had this. I tell you what's the scary thing about the snow is you get lost in the snow.
Yeah,
and suddenly everything it's just white. You're lost in the blankness.
You were trying to get to.
Well, when we were living in the
airport.
Well, that was an interesting time. I knew where I was. I was just behind. That was in Whitehorse. That was such a dumb. I thought, I've got, I had a flight leaving out of Whitehorse. I was coming down for Christmas. You had all morning. The flight was leaving at like 2 or 3. And I didn't have a car. And I asked around. They said, the Whitehorse is kind of on this cliff, and there's a high area where the town's down low near the river. And I said, the airport's right up there, and you can get there through, you go to this park, and then there's stairs that go up there. How cool, So I had all my gear.
You're walking?
Walking.
Wow. So
I'm walking around town, I need to get going, and suddenly it's this, deep snow, and I go up these stairs. They're all icy. And I get to the top, and there's the airport about 2 miles away, and between me and it is just like a mile of just almost waist deep snow, and I'm trudging through the snow.
You walked it?
I had no choice. I just and behind and late, but I was thinking about when we were living in the shack.
Oh yeah.
I went out in my snowshoes, explore, and maybe checking some snares or something, and suddenly I was lost. And you start tracing your footprints back, and you realize you're in a circle. And it's gray. You can't tell north, south, east, west. Every tree, snow looks the same. I remember when I was getting scared and hollered out. And of course, it's soft, so it just absorbs.
Yeah.
My voice doesn't go very far. And I got nervous, and I was going, and then finally I went and I saw this little cabin. Wow, I found somebody. I found some other cabin. Where is this? This is interesting. And it took me about a minute. I realized it was our cabin.
Oh,
And I had gotten home. Oh, man. The feeling like,
oh,
here's
man.
this little cabin with, it's our cabin. I made
great.
it home.
You were only like 7 or 8.
7 or 8.
Wow.
Yeah. The joy of getting lost and finding somewhere and realizing it's home.
But that is a funny thing that I've experienced too, is how different, snow can make a very familiar place look completely different.
Oh yeah.
You're coming up to it. But it's an interesting thing to think about, times that we've had in snow and ways it's crystallized our memories. And
Yeah.
what can we take from that? What can for our daily lives?
Well, like you said, things that are challenging, things that are, make life harder or whatever, can make them more beautiful.
That's true.
And, it's interesting to think back on times in your life when you didn't have much money or, there were problems. And they can be sweet times. Can be. They can focus our attention on what's around us.
Yeah.
And also can make you, care about other people, make sure that people, staying warm.
Yeah. Yeah. The saying is survival is the mother of all invention. Often
Necessity.
the reverse, or necessity. Yeah. The reverse to me is true, that comfort is the mother of apathy, of lack
Sloth.
of sloth, lack of production, lack of inspiration.
Yeah, that's so. When it snows, the morning people get up in the morning, children especially, when they get up, amazing the energy it fires up with the snowfall. You're ready to go do things. If to be religious and to see the religious of it, it's the hand of God. Out of nowhere, we have something that fires us up, something we didn't expect, and it's now we have it's something new, right? So we have in the north, it was a complete change of. That day would be a complete change of how you got around in the woods and so on.
Right.
But
shift, like you were saying, to a new thing.
Here, like in the south, a snow day or a couple of snow days, it's just something to do, something to inspire, doing something different, seeing people.
But it's something children like, and we're supposed to be childlike.
That's true.
Amen.
Right.
Only children, and only like a child, can you enter the kingdom of heaven.
Amen.
And so I think to try to maintain that childlike
Good.
wonder when something new and potentially challenging comes in, like,
something hard.
Here's something that'll be exciting and different.
Amen. Well, we have a couple people watching right now. Verda is watching, and David Milak, and also
Good.
Abigail left a little message. She said, "I like that. Things that are harder can also make our lives more beautiful, and also help us remember to help others."
That's good, Abigail.
Good, Abigail. That's sweet.
Thank you, Abigail.
good. Miss
So
you.
Good
so
to
they're
hear.
watching,
Well,
and
everybody
appreciate
is
you guys.
welcome to join me. I've got a house up in Anchorage if you want. Actually, it's not too much snow up there, but it's coming.
It's out right now.
It melted. So
Amazing.
as the, if things are changing, if things are getting warmer, we're going to have to go north to find the snow when I set up my little Hyperborean community in the park.
Which seems an odd statement, as we have 6
Snow
inches
down
here.
Maybe go south. Go south. That's where the snow will be. Go to New Orleans. That's what they got the most.
10 inches, right?
It's amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Great
They need it.
skiing destination.
You
New
know,
Orleans.
snow is the message of cleanliness too. Clean as the driven snow, pure as the driven snow. So
Yeah.
thank you, God.
I think there will be snow in heaven
All right.
on the hills.
Okay.
Well,
What?
man, how much time do we have? I think that we'll just be a new Earth, right?
Well, right. There's a new heaven, new earth.
New heaven, new Earth.
Mhm, so
So
there's-
why wouldn't there be snow?
Different kinds.
Yeah.
Maybe. All right, guys. Well, this is for a different time. We've gone 30 minutes. Appreciate everybody who has tuned in. Thanks, Paul, for joining us.
That's good
to have you.
guys. Great.
And we'll resume later.
Yeah.
See you later.